Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the live broadcast of the Douglas Ducote Show. You got many places to be tonight. Chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. I hope that you are all staying nice and warm. It appears that America is frozen at the moment. We're down to about 27 degrees here in Louisiana. We're supposed to get down to 17, which is absolutely insane. That really doesn't happen here very often. There are places all over the country right now where records are being broken left and right. I would like to say that if you are new to the program, this is the first time you're watching the show, we are going out on Twitter Live, on LinkedIn Live, on Facebook Live, as well as YouTube. And eventually we'll be going out Rumble Live once they fix some of their problems they have there. So with that in mind, I'm doing some really wonderful narcotics right now from my doctor for this upper respiratory infection that I have going on. So if I say something that offends you tonight, for the new people here, don't blame it on the drugs. I'm just not politically correct, and that's the way I roll. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this global situation we have going on right now in America. You know, for those of you that are my age, I'll be 62 coming up in April. Can't believe I'm that old, but yeah, I'll be 62 in April. Back in the 70s, they called it global cooling. They told us we were screwing up the environment so much that we've destroyed the ozone layer. And within 20 years, the Earth will be plunged into another ice age. We will all freeze to death. And they blamed it on things. The big thing they blamed it on was hairspray. That's right. Women's hairspray. Back then, women had big, huge hairdos. And the big thing was the hairspray. It's destroying the ozone layer. And over years, they started adding things to that. Then, when 20 years passed and we were still here, and the temperatures during the summer were becoming very warm, warmer than usual, although the winters were becoming even warmer as well. They changed tactics because that wasn't working. They changed the name and they called it global warming. We're all going to die because the ozone layer we screwed up so badly, and now we'll all burn to death on Earth, and it'll be all over with. Then 20 years passed and we're still here. They changed it then to climate change, which is where we're at today. Now they say the winter freezes and the summer hotness, and they added to it the tornadoes and hurricanes and wildfires, all the things that we've always had on planet Earth, are going to kill us all. And per AOC, when she got elected not too many years ago, she said within 5 to 10 years, that's it. We're all going to die because of climate change. The new thing now is all the ice glaciers are melting, and the coastlines will become flooded within the next 5 to 10 years. That's right. If you live on the coastline, you're screwed. Places like San Francisco, California, Corpus Christi, Texas, New Orleans, Louisiana, Miami, Florida, New York City is all going to be under 10 to 15 feet of water. Look, there have been scientists through the years that have pushed these theories, and that's the only ones that the government wants to listen to. While just as many scientists say just the opposite. They say the Earth has always had massive climate change since the beginning of time, and nothing new has made it worse. Are we doing things to screw up the environment? Of course we are. We just like to make stuff and that stuff turns into junk. All right, let's just face it. But just like with the vaccine, they will only listen to those that spin their narrative. They will not listen to the other scientists. They will listen to those that force this garbage down our throats. Garbage like the new Green Deal, all electric vehicles that happen to be frozen all over the country right now and unable to move. Taking air conditioning freons from our homes and our cars, taking away gas stoves and gas fireplaces, and no more gas and oil drilling or production of it. It's called Stuck on Stupid. And sadly, within the next few years, if not sooner, they will come up with a new name to call it for the next generations coming along. They realize that we're all still here and nothing's really changed weather-wise. It's been this way since the beginning of time. And that's been proven time and time again. But they won't listen to those experts. They only listen to theirs that are just as car. And I'm talking about the Democrats and the liberals of our society. Before we dive into tonight's show, I want to say that the United States Navy is searching for 2 Navy SEALs that have gone missing in the waters off of Somalia. They were engaged in climbing up the side of an Iranian cargo ship that was accused of smuggling weapons that was headed to support Hamas and other terrorist groups. The latest report is that they were climbing up the side of the ship when a large wave hit the ship, causing one of the SEALs to fall back into the water. The other SEAL jumped back into the water to save his comrade, which is part of their normal operating procedures. If one goes down, you go save them and bring them back. The ship was eventually boarded and has been secured by other Navy SEALs, but the search for these 2 missing SEALs is still ongoing, and it's been a few days now. So please pray for their safety and their safe return, and for their families as well that are suffering tonight. The names have not been released yet. If and when they call off the search, which sadly is probably going to happen soon, or they do locate the bodies, then they will notify, or then let us know who they are. The families have already been notified. They know who's missing, but they're not going to share that with us until that time that it's over. Tonight's top story. The Iowa caucus has concluded, and the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has dominated the Hawkeye state. After just over half an hour after the results started flooding in, it was obvious Trump was projected as the winner of the Iowa caucus last night. The polling average revealed that he received over 50% of the total statewide vote, breaking all precinct records. The former president addressed his supporters soon afterwards. He thanked them for giving him such a big victory in the Hawkeye state. Most importantly, I want to thank the great people of Iowa, he said. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think it's time now for everybody, for the country to come together. We want you all to come together. Trump's win is unprecedented for an opening nominating contestant. The prior record was set by George W. Bush in 2000. During that election, Bush won over 41% of the total vote. Trump won Iowa by nearly 30 points, more than second place candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Nikki Haley came in third, and Ohio businessman Ramsey rounded out the race in 4th place, and then soon after dropped out. In his concession speech, he endorsed Donald Trump. This is just the first nominating contest to take place this election cycle. However, the Iowa caucus historically have allowed candidates to get momentum in the process as it moves forward. With Trump leading Iowa with such big margins, he will now head to New Hampshire with the win on his back. This has been potentially to spell trouble for Haley, as the state is expected to be her strongest. Interest polls in Iowa reveal that Trump dominated among first-time caucus goers and also received overwhelming support from voters who feel that Joe Biden did not win the 2020 election legitimately. Even among evangelicals, which was supposed to support Ron DeSantis, strongest group, 51% of those supported the former president. With the big win, the Trump campaign is not taking anything for granted, and they should not. Team Trump believes that winning Iowa is just the first step of making America great again. The people of Iowa understand that this is so important tonight. Arizona senatorial candidate Kari Lake said. They showed up big. They delivered big, and we're going to make sure that we make America great again. The second nominating contest will occur in New Hampshire on Tuesday this month on January 23rd. I will predict now that Trump will be victorious in that one as well. We're going to become the GOP nominee to become the person that goes up against Joe Biden. And, well, I think the writing's on the wall what's going to happen from there, which we're going to share here in a minute. Before we do that, let's talk about some of Trump's problems. And oh, how things come back to haunt you. The Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney, Fani Willis, who brought the charges against former President Donald Trump on election interference, now has karma slapping her across her big, ugly face. And she claims these allegations brought against her of having an improper romantic relationship with a married prosecutor were made because, you ready for this? Drum roll, please. She's black. Yep, let's toss out the race card. Court documents filed earlier this month say that Wills hired special prosecutor Nathan Wade, her alleged partner, to prosecute Trump and benefit financially from the relationship in the form of lavish vacations the two went on, using funds his firm received for working the case. For the first time since the allegations were made, Willis spoke on the matter at the all-black Big Bethel AME Church in Atlanta on Sunday. She got up there and cried tears. They only attack one, she said. First thing they say, oh, she's going to play the race card. But no, God, isn't it them that's playing the race card when they only question one? Willis asked. Willis had remained mum in public on the matter, though she still has neither confirmed nor denied the allegations brought against her and Wade, who was involved in bringing an indictment against Trump for election interference. Although she never mentioned Wade by name during the speech on Sunday, she referred to the man as a great friend and a great lawyer. I think he was a great husband until his wife found out that he was screwing you. Trump co-defendant Michael Rohn accused Willis and Wade of having an improper and clandestine affair. At the same time, appointments were being made for the 2020 election interference case. Rohn was a former official in Trump's 2020 campaign and argued about the integrity of the case being compromised because of the affair last week in court, asking for the charges against him to be dropped. The district attorney chose to appoint her romantic partner, who at all times relevant to his prosecution has been a married man, court documents read. Fulton County records show Wade had been paid nearly $654,000 by this DA for legal fees since January 2022, which she's spending too. An amount authorized by her herself, aka DA Willis in this case. Filing also calls for the entire district attorney's office, including Willis and Wade, to be disqualified from prosecuting the case. Willis said on Sunday that John Floyd and Anna Green Cross, both prosecutors assigned to the case, are both white, and they were not targeted by Trump, just she and her partner were. Isn't it them playing the race card when they constantly think I need someone from some other jurisdiction and some other state to tell me how to do a job that's been going on almost 30 years, she asked. Well, check this out, Miss Cheater. No one knew the names of the white people involved from your office, John Floyd and Anna Cross, because they are not the ones that have been going around every day for the past several years screaming Trump is a racist, Trump is a bigot, Trump is a criminal, Trump committed election fraud, elected me for DA, and I will make the mission to bring Trump down, you said. They, dear, have kept themselves peacefully and have acted like professionals, which is what you did not do. While you, on the other hand, acted like a spoiled brat who had her dolly taken away by the big mean Donald J. Trump. Therefore, you will destroy him. You brought this on yourself. So stop blaming others and definitely stop this race card bullshit that's coming out of your pathetic mouth. Trump was indicted, as you all know, by Willis in August of 2023. And he pleaded not guilty to the charges related to allegedly attempting to subvert the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, including violation of Georgia's anti-racketeering law, which DA Willis claims. Roman, alongside Trump, was hit with racketeering charges as part of Willis's case and was charged with 7 felony counts. So guess what, ma'am? You play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. And in this case, thankfully, karma is slapping you right where you need it. Stop screwing over people for political gain. And maybe, just maybe, people will look at you as not the fraud that you are. I want to talk about something that's a lot of you probably have absolutely no clue about, especially if you're younger. You're not like me, an old 62-year-old here soon. I don't know where time went. Trust me. One day you're going to wake up and you're not going to be 18, 19, 20 years old anymore. And you're going to go, where did time go? So I've been able to see a lot of changes throughout history, at least in my time. And I've heard a lot from my father and my grandfather and my great-grandparents and uncles and aunts and cousins through the years that have shared their stories about the things that have happened in America, good and bad things, all right? But our government has always had this bad seed deep rooted in it. Call it the swamp, call it whatever you want. It's always been there, doing things that defy common damn sense. So what I want to talk about tonight is how safe is air travel these days? For those of you that have been watching me through the years, you know that I've been in aviation most of my entire life. Civilian aviation as well as military aviation. And I have family members that are in aviation. I have a son that's an airline pilot. I have friends that work at the FAA and family members that work at the FAA. My father was a pilot. Cousins, uncles, aunts that were pilots. Well, aviation today as well, it's better than it used to be. And every year, more and more safety-related items are added into the equation to make it as safe as possible. And it still is today safer to fly across country in an airplane than it is to drive in a car. But for those of you old like me, you'll remember a hiring practice that went into effect here in America years ago that was called affirmative action. The term was first used in the United States in Executive Order 10925 that was signed into law by President John F. Kennedy on March 6 of 1961. Over the years, it changed from a law that would make sure that people are not discriminated against in hiring practices on the basis of race or sex, to an all-out war to pass up hiring of white men, regardless of their education and work experience, to hire women and people of color first. In many situations across America, government agencies even put quotas on the hiring. Basically, if you need to hire a group of people, only one of that group can be white. The rest had to be Black, Asian, Muslim, or female of any color but white. As you can guess, this backfired big time because people were being hired and put into jobs that they were not qualified for just because of the color of their skin or their race or such as. Well, over time, when it became obvious affirmative action was ruining everything, the practices slowly were faded out. Here's an example of affirmative action when I, myself, was affected by it. When I left active duty U.S. Army and I went into the Army National Guard, my other dream in life and goal in life, besides the military and the aviation field, was to work in law enforcement. So, moved out to California and I joined the California Army National Guard, and I joined a military police unit. So I got out of aviation for a while, and for 3 years I was in this military police unit because I wanted that experience, and it would help me to get hired in law enforcement because I would be coming in with no experience, just a military veteran. And the more experience you have when you're applying for jobs like that, the better chance you're going to get it, right? So I thought if I go into the military police and just give them 3 years of my time, that would help me definitely get hired in the San Francisco Bay Area in law enforcement. So I started submitting my application. Here I was, college graduate. That's good. They need that. Highly educated, military man, now serving in the National Guard after serving the active duty, combat veteran. All the boxes were being checked. Qualified in weapons, qualified in real world activity, and now a military police officer. Went to the academy, graduated first in the military police academy. That's great on my record, right? Was a staff sergeant in charge of a platoon of military police officers. And we served in numerous capacities throughout that 3 years, supporting California Highway Patrol during floods, during fires, the riots that took place down in LA. And once I got the experience behind me, I started applying at different police agencies in the California Bay Area that were hiring. And I would go in, I'd take the exam. I would score very high on the exams. I'd be called in for an interview. I would pass the interview. Literally, every question it was asking me. I walked out of the interviews going, I nailed this, knowing that I did, because I had the answers to all their questions. And then the process would stop right there, and I'd get a letter that said, you're fully qualified, but we're sorry at this time, your application will not be accepted. It's like, what the hell? Go apply at a different agency. Same thing would happen. Apply at another agency. Same thing would happen. Over a period of a year, I applied all over the Bay Area, every agency out there, Oakland Police Department, San Mateo City Police, Melbury Police Department, Sunnyvale Police Department. I mean, I was applying for every agency there, and the same things were happening. I'm passing everything, but I wouldn't get past getting forward to go into the background and anything else. I'd always get the same letter. Fully qualified, but not accepted. Didn't understand this. Made no sense to me. What does that mean? And you call them up, they wouldn't tell you. So at the time, a friend of mine, her cousin was a high-ranking official with the San Francisco Police Department. And I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to him about this. And I told him what was happening. And I didn't understand, why am I not getting hired? He said, I'll tell you what, I know the people that are in charge of our hiring process. Just go through the process here with San Francisco PD, which I didn't want to become a member of San Francisco PD, but I figured at this point, I don't care. All right, they hire me, I'll take it. Did the test, aced it. Went into the interview, aced it, just like I did all the other departments for the past year. A few weeks go by, I get the letter, fully qualified, not accepted. I called him up and I said, same damn thing happened. Said, all right, give me a couple of days and I'll get back to you. He gets back to me and he says, you're not going to believe this. The bottom line here, let me cut to the chase. You're a white male. And because of affirmative action, we have 50 positions available that we're hiring for our agency right now. You were in 300 people that applied for those 50 positions. Your application, your test score, and your interview were all superior, top of the line. But before we can hire a white male, we must hire a black, an Asian, a Muslim, women of any and all colors other than white. They had this quota they had to hire first. Didn't matter if they were qualified, if they were less qualified than me. Didn't matter if they were ever a military police officer. They just passed the freaking test. And they weren't a complete babbling idiot in front of the board. They had to hire them before they could hire a white male. And I went, son of a bitch. Are you kidding me? That was the first time I saw the effects up close and personal, and it affected me and my family. I gave up at that point. Never going to happen. I'll never get into law enforcement. About another year goes by, and I'm ready to leave. I'd done my 3 years as a military police officer. Aviation position was opening back up in the California Guard. So I applied to go into that and gave up on this dream of being in law enforcement. And affirmative action started turning around. And these agencies were realizing that they were hiring people to put out on the streets to be cops that were thugs and doing bad things, bad cops, and literally destroying these agencies. Shoots that weren't good, arrests that weren't good, beating up people after they've been in handcuffs, you name it. And they did away with it. No more affirmative action hiring. My wife said, you need to apply now. Nope, I'm done with it. No, listen, they did away with this. Give it a shot. Look, here's an ad right here in the paper. San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, which I never even thought about going to the sheriff's office. I was looking at city police. San Mateo County Sheriff's Office is hiring right now. She talked me into it. Went down, took the exam, aced it, went to the board, aced it, got the letter, opened it with nervousness and shaky hands, I'll be honest with you. And it said, congratulations, you're now being welcomed to the next step. The next step was a home interview where they send in a detective from the training agency to come in and interview you and your family. Very cool process that San Mateo had at that time. I don't know if they're still doing it now, and I don't know how many other agencies did it, but they wanted to actually do a thorough investigation of you and your family and talk to your friends and people you put on that application. They contacted every damn one of them to ask what kind of a person I was. Getting through that, got the next letter. You're qualified to now come to the background check. They did the background check. I aced that. Next came the process of the polygraph. Passed the polygraph. Next came the physical agility test. Passed that. Next came, you've been accepted to go to the police academy. And I did. And I passed. And I was hired by San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. Later went on to become an FTO and train other officers. And that was a good thing. Yes, in my class, there were people of color. There were people of different orientations. But there were also white qualified people way more so than the others. And they were no longer going to hire on that principle. That being said, brings you this story that is going to blow you away. Trust me. Affirmative action is coming back, but it's under a different name. It's now called Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Incentive. Same thing, different name, and many other types of people move to the front of the line before a white male does. Blacks, Asian, Muslims, women of all color, but they also added gay, bisexual, trans, and circus clowns, aka drag queens. The biggest supporter of this practice, are you ready for this? United Airlines. The Friendly Skies? Yes. One of the biggest airline organizations, if not the biggest in America, is hell-bent on that policy. You can be the highest educated, skilled, and experienced pilot applying for the job to be a United Airlines pilot, flight attendant, gate agent, or aircraft mechanic. If you're a straight white male, your application goes to the end of the line. So think about this for a minute. If you need to be treated for cancer, a brain tumor, or any serious medical condition, would you want your doctor to be the best educated and experienced doctor that you could possibly have? Or one with less education and experience hired because of their race or their sexual orientation? Well, I think that question is a no-brainer, right? No pun intended. So, what's next? Folks, now the FAA is following suit. The Federal Aviation Administration is actively recruiting workers who are everything but straight white males. To those that also suffer, are you ready for this? Severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under the Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Incentive, and it's spelled out in the agency's own website. So I invite you to go there to the FAA's website and read it for yourself. Because trust me, you couldn't make this shit up if you tried. Targeting disabilities or other disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruiting and hiring. The FAA's website states those include those that have hearing problems, vision problems, missing limbs, partial paralyzed, complete paralyzed, epilepsy, severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, dwarfism. The initiative is part of the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan, which claims diversity is integral to achieve the FAA's mission of ensuring safe and effective travel across our nation and beyond. The FAA's website shows the agency's guidelines on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd, 2022, as of tonight. The FAA, which is overseen by who? Secretary Pete Buttlick, as I like to call him, Buttlicker. Department of Transportation is a government agency charged with regulating civil aviation and employs roughly 45,000 people. All eyes have been on the FAA and the airline industry in recent days after a plugged door on a Boeing 737 MAX 9 blew out during Alaska Airlines flight on January 5th. The FAA has now grounded all 737 MAX planes after the incident and is carrying out an extensive inspection and maintenance work. The FAA added it would increase its oversight of Boeing following this incident, including auditing Boeing's 737 MAX 9 jetliner production line and companies that supply parts to the airline manufacturer. Now, let me just tell you real quick. I'm sure many of y'all heard that story about this airline and the door that blew out. Hell, there's many memes going around right now on social media making fun of it. This did not become a serious death issue with the plane falling apart in the sky and our people dying because it had just taken off and was cruising to altitude. It was like, I think, 11 or 12,000 feet when it happened. Most people were still in their seatbelts. In fact, everybody was. Seatbelt light hadn't even came on yet to take it off when that door blew. Had they been at normal cruising altitude of 30,000 feet and that door blew, by then the seatbelt light would have been off and everybody up walking around, to include the flight attendants, would have been sucked out that window to their deaths. The oxygen mask would have fell, as they did in this case still. But many people would have died. And furthermore, because of that altitude and the different pressure that would have been forced on the aircraft when the door blew, the aircraft could have disintegrated and come apart in flight. And everybody would have died. So this was a major, major deal. A major incident that was avoided because that door blew on takeoff, not at cruising altitude, on the climb up to cruising altitude. Also, we now have happening constantly near misses, not only on the airport ramps, taxiways and runways, but even in the airways. Aircraft literally coming within seconds of colliding with each other. And it's happening, my friends, every week. Following the incident, social media commentaries and public figures have charged that airline and airline manufacturers' emphasis on diversion, equity, and inclusion incentives has made flying less safe. Do you want to fly in an airplane where they prioritize DEA hiring is done over your safety? Tech billionaire Elon Musk wrote on X last week, that is exactly what is happening. The DEI rot in the airline industry is way worse than you think. Daily Wire commentator Matt Walsh wrote in an open ed last week. Critics of such commentary have pushed back on the argument that prioritizing DEI has made traveling less safe, with civil rights groups slamming Musk, for example, for the errant and pathetic tweet. On the FAA's website, the agency claims that people with severe mental and physical disabilities are the most underrepresented segment in the federal workforce. FAA launches the probe of the Boeing 737 MAX after the midair blowout cannot happen again because diversity is so critical. FAA Alternative supports and engages in a variety of associations, programs, coalitions, and incentives to support and accommodate employees from diverse communities and backgrounds. Our people are our strength, and we take great care in investing in the value of them as such, the FAA states. When asked for comment on the initiative, including what roles people with disabilities would fulfill, the FAA told Fox News Digital the agency throughout seeks, yet vets and qualifies candidates from as many sources as possible for a range of positions. The FAA employs tens of thousands of people for a wide range of positions, from administrative roles to oversight and executive to critical safety functions. Like many large employees, the agency proactively seeks qualified candidates from as many sources as possible, all of whom must meet rigorous qualifications that, of course, will vary by position, the FAA said. Dr. Stanley Gulford, chairman of Do No Harm, a group of healthcare professionals, medical students, and policymakers working to protect healthcare from a radical diversity and discrimination ideology, told Fox News Digital that similar to the medical field, the aviation industry has an obligation to protect its travelers. The aviation industry has a responsibility for traveler safety, just as the healthcare industry has a responsibility for patient safety. These responsibilities overweigh other factors when considering applicants to work in those fields. People with disabilities who can successfully complete the task should never face discrimination. A retired professor and the former associate dean for curriculum of the University of Pennsylvania Schools of Medicine said, "Unfortunately," he said, "identity politics is creating opportunities for so-called oppressed groups by lowering standards of entry into those fields, thereby endangering the safety of those which it's designed to serve. Some endeavors simply do not lend themselves to identity politics," he added. The FAA's website outlines that some margins can hire disabled people and veterans through an on-the-spot hiring process, providing required documentation is submitted. Meaning you don't have to go in for a fucking interview. You can apply online and submit your documentations. The FAA also detailed that employees with disabilities will be provided reasonable accommodations on the job. So not only are we creating an unsafe condition for air travel, but it's across the whole damn aviation community. Pilots, flight attendants, gate agents, TSA employees, aircraft mechanics, and air traffic controllers, just to name a few. How do we fix this? You start writing your state representatives ASAP, people. Because people are going to die because of this practice. It's just a matter of time. I have several disabilities. I have a son with special needs. I support hiring people with disabilities. I support hiring people of any race, of any sexual orientation. It shouldn't matter what your race is. Shouldn't matter if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're straight, if you're black, if you're white, if you're Asian, if you're Muslim. None of that should matter. What should matter is, are you qualified to do that particular job? Do you have the education that's required? Are you the top of the field in the education part of it? Do you have the training that's involved and needed? Are you at the top of your game in that? Do you have the physical capabilities to conduct the job safely for those that you're entitled to protect? And if the answer is no, then guess what? You shouldn't be hired. It shouldn't matter what your skin color is, or who you have sex with, or what your religion is. That should not be in the equation at all. I'm all for my special needs son working in the work field that he does. But I know there are jobs that he doesn't qualify for. There's no way in hell I would allow him to go. He's 33 years old. I'm not going to allow him to apply to work at the FAA, for crying out loud. But guess what? If you go look at the FAA website tonight, my son qualifies to work for the FAA. That not only is setting him up for failure, but it's setting up the public for failure for safety reasons. And that's our government at work, doing everything in their power to screw over we the people. This next story will sound like typical fraud, waste, and abuse of government money. Even sounds like something the government would come up with, but it's not the government yet. And I'm not going to laugh and poke fun of this like I did when it went through my mind when I first read about it. And trust me, I did. I laughed and I said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever fucking heard. Literally. But I allowed it to sink in. And I thought about the bigger picture. And I thought, hell, it might work. It just might save lives. And time will tell. A well-known Southern Florida homeless advocate is breaching out into a new arena. He's creating a hotline with the ambitious goal of trying to stop mass shootings. That's a good thing, right? I think so. But how is that possible, you might ask? Well, Sean Connie, who has opened homeless shelters in Broward and Polk counties, told the South Florida Sun Sentinel he hopes to use skills he has learned dealing with the mental health challenges of his clients to try to help those who may want to commit violence. Modeled after the suicide prevention hotlines, Connie is launching a mass shooting prevention caller center in Davie Estates. The project will operate through his nonprofit agency called Coalition for Service and Charity Foundation. Connie said he plans to self-fund the effort initially, but volunteers and staff members in his organization are reaching out to seek potential funders and people to help donate to this cause. He said he was heartbroken by the 2018 mass shooting at Majority Stoneman Douglas High in Parkland and other tragedies at school and places of worship, businesses, and other locations. He said he wanted to come up with an idea that hasn't been tried much. If people call for suicide, I think they're going to call for this, he said, noting research that showed that mass killers also tend to be suicidal. Our hope is people will call. We can talk them out of getting to this and doing it. We can talk them into getting help, he said. If we can help people get some dangerous guns out of their hands, 4 or 5 people a year, I'll be happy. He said he plans to formally announce the project at a news conference and start taking calls this Thursday. Those who call the hotline number, and the number is 605-667-4668 or 605-NO-SHOOT, will be connected to an operator who can provide resources to help those in crisis. He also started a website. It's called 605noshoot.org. First of all, if you're planning to do a mass shooting right now, stop and please let us talk with you. You're here to help. We are here to help you. A recorded message says when someone calls. We do record calls for training, but we do not have to tell you do not have to tell us what you are or where you are or the number you're calling from. Again, please let us help you before you make the biggest mistake of your life, the recording says. Press any key to be connected to someone who can try and help. Connie said those maintaining the hotline will only be required to notify law enforcement if the caller identifies a specific target, such as a person or a venue. He plans to promote the hotline on TikTok and other social media sites, as well as take out ads and submit public service announcements to local and national media. People love you. You just need to see it, Connie says in one promotional spot. Do you want someone to hurt someone you love? I'm sure the answer is no. We want to help you without judgment. You're not an evil person. You just need a little help. Connie is launching the effort with his friend, Debbie Espona, a Cooper City parent who has been an active volunteer with the Broward County School District. Espinoza said as part of the effort, she has been researching common traits between mass killers. It seems they're not necessarily suffering from mental illness like long-term. It's more that they're in crisis and they're triggered by an event, a specific event, usually losing someone, she said. She noted that was the case with the Parkland killer, whose mother had recently died when he killed 17 people. Nobody has been successful, and it's heartbreaking. It's horrifying. And we can do something to stop it. It's our civic responsibility to do something, she said. So, again, I'm not going to lie to you. When I first read that, I laughed out loud. And I thought, can you get stupider than this? And then I went back and I read it again. And then I got to thinking about it. And I thought, no, I'm the person that's wrong here. It's me. That's not how I should be looking at this. Hell, here's somebody at least trying to do something to help with mass shootings that doesn't involve taking your Second Amendment rights away from you, for crying out loud. And if it helps, if it saves anyone from doing a mass shooting, he's doing the work for God. He's doing the right thing for mankind. So now I feel bad about how I first viewed this story. And I hope that you understand that. And I'm the first to tell you if I get something wrong. I got it wrong, and I did with that story. Because when I first read it, I laughed. It seemed like a Saturday Night Live skit to me. But then the more I sat on it and thought about it and reread it, the more I thought, I'm the problem, not this guy. So let's see what happens. Biden's approval rating has plummeted to a 15-year low per ABC News poll. Not Fox News, not some conservative poll, but the liberal Democrat supporting ABC. Biden's approval rating sits at just 31%, which is the lowest on record for a U.S. president in the last 15 years. Even so, the laughing hyena, Kamala Harris, says they will win in 2024. Biden's approval rating sits at just 31%, according to the national survey produced for ABC News by Langer Research Associates, with fieldwork by La Poste Public Affairs via its online probability-based knowledge panel. The poll found 58% of respondents disapproved of the job Biden is doing as president. That makes his approval rating worse than any former president, Trump's lowest while he was in office, which was only at 30%, according to ABC News. It also marks the lowest since former President George W. Bush administration in the mid-2000s, at just 18% approval of how Biden is handling immigration at the southern border, half his approval rating on the issue in the spring. ABC News said that means Biden has the lowest approval ranking on immigration, and in particular, any U.S. president featured in past ABC News and Washington Post polls that asked a version of the same question since 2004. On the economy, the poll found that just 13% of Americans say they're better off financially since Biden took office. Following a 37-year record set in September, 43% of the respondents surveyed from January 4th through the 8th of 2024 said they're not well off, and 41% say they're about the same financially the current administration since it started. ABC News said that around the middle of Trump's term, just 13%, one-third of as many people as Biden, said they were not as well off as before he took office, replacing former President Obama. The poll found that just 31% approved of how Biden is handling the economy, while 56% disapproved. Just 26% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, while 48% disapproved. Though the poll noted a substantial 25% don't express an opinion on the issue at all. So, how can Biden win in 2024? Is it possible? Think about it. I say it is. Sure, he can win in 2024 over Trump if he can do the following things in the next 10 months. Secure the southern border. genuine support and show care for angel families whose loved ones have been killed by illegal aliens, as well as show support for Blue and Gold Star families. Force everyone in his party to support the police instead of defunding the police. Forces federal judges as well as state judges to stop slapping the wrist of violent criminals and actually lock their ass up. Forces Muslim members of Congress to stop their blatant, open anti-American hate. Start drilling for oil again instead of relying on oil from countries that hate us. This will also bring the cost of gas below $2 a gallon again. And fire those in his cabinet that are more incompetent than he is. Pete Buttigieg comes to mind. And then force his vice president to do her damn job. Or better yet, remove her altogether from the 2024 ticket. Force his son Hunter to pay his $1 million in federal income taxes he owes. If he doesn't have to pay his income taxes, why should you and me? Why should the voter have to pay their taxes? The president of the United States doesn't give a shit that his son owes $1 million. And most important of all, call off his Department of Justice and FBI dictators from openly committing election interference with attacks against his opponent, Donald J. Trump. But of course, none of those things he will do, which is why he will be defeated in 2024. And the new president will be Donald J. Trump. Come hell or high waters, that is my prediction. Today, 1/16/2024 at 9 p.m. Central Time. If you have many places you can be tonight, you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Join me back here on Thursday at the same time, 8 o'clock Central Time. Please share this show when it becomes a regular video. And all my videos on my channel with your friends and loved ones and on social media. Subscribe to the channel. Let your friends and family know about the show. Help support what I do here, because I'm not doing it for anybody else but you. I've done my time. I've served this country with honor in every way I can possibly think of. And I do this to bring awareness to American patriots. That's all. Trust me, the hassle of what I have to go through and the threats that happen against me and my family should make me just say, the hell with it, and walk away. But I do believe that God has a higher power for me. He has a calling that for me to do what I'm doing. I believe I'm doing God's work. I really do believe that. Because I get to see the feedback from you, and what I get back in return warms my soul and my heart, and it makes me thrive to do better each and every week. And I will continue to do that as long as God allows me to be on this earth. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, many in harm's way right now, all over the Middle East. Again, our law enforcement officers that are out there struggling to protect you and me, everything that's going against them, and targets on their back painted by the Democrats and liberals. Our first responders and all their families, our Blue and Gold Star families, our angel families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Have a wonderful, blessed night. Be safe. Stay warm. Bundle up, because it's cold out there, baby. All right, folks. I'll see you on Thursday. Godspeed.